Not cool. I'm not like Sophie. I'm from Bradford, so I don't sound as nice as she does. So I apologise in advance. But yeah, I'm glad a lot of you came. It was my intention to make it a bit of a clickbaity title, because a lot of you do that anyway. But there is an apology here. I'll make a request really quickly. For the first half, don't take notes. Just look at me, eyes on me. I don't say it often. Look at the slides, and then you'll figure out when there's things to take away. I just want to give you some context first. So, about me. Really quickly, I chose that picture for two reasons. It ties into the story because that was taken in 2019, before the pandemic. I was loving my life. I had a luscious, nice beard, a really good hairline. And right now, 2024, I'm 31. I've got two kids, as you can see, no beard, and my hairline's receding. So if you don't want kids, just look at this. Best way I can put it. But yeah, I go by three names. Sanjay, split it into two ways. Been doing this since 2016. 6 years agency side, 2 years. I'm at Cavoo now. I'm the SEO manager there, formerly known as the Manchester Airport Group. And a bit about me really quickly. I love donuts. Don't know what it is about them. I can eat them all day. Easter, I got told telling off by my dentist, basically. I love a Guinness now. I think it's like a 30 thing. When you hit 30, you just drink a load of Guinness, apparently. And what else have I put on there? Sorry. To be fair, this is old. I've stopped drinking Monster now. That was my resolution for this year, was to stop energy drinks, and I've done it. So take off for me. What I do and what I don't. So just really quickly, I don't write content. Don't ask me to write you a blog post. I can't do that. There'll be a comma somewhere. There'll be a spelling mistake somewhere else. There'll be a full stop that doesn't need to be there. I don't do that. I don't build links. Never have done. Such as Sophie said, I'm a tech guy. I'm kind of a strategy person. I won't build you a link. I don't know how to do it. And I hate numbers. I have to do forecasts, and I dread it, which is why I married a maths teacher. I think ahead, see that? She does all the numbers for me now. I do the nice stuff. What I do, though, I run tech audits. I'm a massive tech geek. I love data in that aspect. I do market share analysis. So if you're telling me we're here, these are the competitors, I'll pull together a plan to kind of bridge that gap and exceed them. I also look at how to increase our brand presence online, which we'll talk about in a bit. I set strategies. And the one thing that I did, and I've done it throughout my career until about 2 years ago, is I overlooked the importance of what you people did in the room today. And that's why I want to apologize to you all as well. So, first of all, why I overlooked you all. And it kind of comes from my background, being in agencies, testing and learning. So as you can imagine, in the organic team, you had three people, right? You had the strategist, myself, a copywriter who wrote the amazing content, and then the creative one or the PR strategist. Or, as clients would put it, you'd have the tech guy, the copywriter, and the creative one, right? Come on, there you go. And my frustration came from, there wasn't a lot of resource back in the day for us strategists. We would kind of be a team of one, right? We'd go in, we'd set the strategies, do the tech audits, look at the market, and that'd be my remit. And your copywriter would have maybe a junior exec or a content writer. And every single month, you'd see another digital PR person come through the door, and I'd be like, how? Where's this budget coming from? I need that budget. I need a new tool. And that frustration built up because I was having conversations with clients, and I couldn't justify that value because I didn't understand how they were driving that value. And that's why me and Sophie kind of actually overlap. There wasn't the metrics in place back in the day to showcase this is what PR is doing for your brand, your clients. And that led us to the S-ego issue. So I told you, I'm not good at numbers, but I'm good at creative, SEO, ego. I developed an ego. Developed an ego because you look at a client, they brought the brief in, we want to achieve X amount of traffic transactions via whatever it is, right? We go away, we lock ourselves in a room, we come together with a strategy, with the deliverables, and then essentially I ran the client through that, and then people would pitch in. And that way of thinking was wrong because there was no collaboration, there was no learning, there was no progression from my part, and at one point I hated doing digital, and I considered maybe it's time I go do something else. But again, that wasn't their fault, that's my fault. Because for me, it was a case of, well, I know everything. I'm greater than all of you sat here today, because I can pull together the tech bit, the content bit, the PR bit, and I can neatly put it together, and I can give you a nice Gantt chart, and I can say, here's what you need to do to drive results. The issue with that is you become narrow-minded, and you don't listen to the teams around you. And I can say this right now, hand on heart, I have worked with some of the best names in the industry at what they do, but at the time I took them for granted. So, obviously, that was how I used to think. I don't think that way now, you'll be lucky to hear. And the reason being because I had a light bulb moment. So I made the switch, agency side, got frustrated, had an amazing opportunity to work with a really good team in the UK, moved in-house. And my first kind of brief was I had 2 sites, right? One was a UK-only site, very small scale, very small budget, small numbers. And one was this powerhouse European brand across the whole of Europe. And they had this massive, massive brand authority. I went in there, the rankings were spectacular. They just needed an extra push. The issue is, across both brands, there was a mountain of tech debt, stale content, and no PR activity. So my job was to come in and say, where are we going to put the resource to reverse the declines that we're currently seeing? So here's what I did. Went in, we said, right, okay, cool. I'm here now. Tech, that's my go-to. I'll run the tech across both of these platforms, and I'll make sure that tech debt reduces. What we'll do, to kind of fit into what you want as my boss, as my employer, is we'll put content and PR into the bigger brand, because that's going to drive the most profits, right? And unfortunately, it didn't really work, because the issue was the tech debt remained. We couldn't really do much. The platform was outdated. The content updates were sparse. It was a meta title change, maybe an FAQ update, nothing too major. But when I tell you the PR agency's coverage was shit hot, it was phenomenal, phenomenal. And the DA was on the up. But that, again, kind of led us into that ego issue, because I was like, well, the visibility stayed the same, and the traffic stayed the same, but they're telling me this is great, and I can see it in Ahrefs, it's going up, but nothing else is changing. I knew it. I knew PR didn't work. And then I had another choice to make, and they said, right, well, it's not working, so can we focus on the smaller brand? And I was like, right, okay, cool, let's do that. So I went in, spoke to the agency, and we've changed all the resource from this brand to this brand. And here's what we did. From a tech point of view, rather than me sitting there and give the developers a load of fixes and saying, go and fix it, we prioritized it based on what's going to impact the crawling, the indexing, and the ranking. And then I went away and I said, look, the stuff that you can't fix or you don't have the time to fix, give me the access. I will go in and I'll fix as much as I can. Friday afternoon hit, I went on. I tell you what, I smashed everything. Everything I could fix, 404, fixed it. Redirect loop, fixed it. Canonical tag, fix it. I felt like a champion. I went downstairs, told Mrs. and she was like, you've missed dinner. I was like, nice one. But then content-wise, same thing. We went in and I said to the guys, look, right now, we've got a couple of locations, Manchester being one of them. We've really got to hit it hard. That's where the volume is. Can we please go in, choose a pillar page, do the hubs, do the internal linking, everything we can do. And then PR-wise, I said to them, I said, look, whatever you did for that site, just replicate it. There's no brief. Go away. I need this brand ranking. That's all I said to them. I said, okay, cool, leave it with us. And here's what happened. The brand went from being barely visible, not knowing, to suddenly 200% up year on year. No one had heard of us before. Now we were getting brand searches. On top of that, non-brand grew. On top of that, traffic grew. On top of that, transactions grew. And I was sat there thinking, right, so what's driven that? Was it me? Was it the content? Was it the PR? And I had to sit down and I had to think about it. And I think I've got an idea. So this is my theory, right? And I could be wrong. This is my theory. There you go. So when I first kind of came up through the system as a junior SEO exec, my manager, who wasn't creative at all, said, this is how technical content and links plays a part in overall SEO, right? And if you use that, yeah, it's nice to show a client this is how it all fits together, but it doesn't actually show a tangible way of how we work together. So my current manager, Emily, who is phenomenal, she said, actually, let's think about SEO as a house, okay? And think about it this way. Your technical, that's your foundation, the bedrock, right? You've got to get a nice foundation set. Content, the doors, the walls, the windows. And then to finish the house off, you need to provide PR and links. And that's going to finish the overall house. So taking that example, for example, especially on this site, or the larger site, digital PR, magic, phenomenal. Got so much done. But like I mentioned before, the foundation of the site was horrible. So we were driving all these amazing links in, but the site wasn't able to cope with it. So we were just driving all these nice links to a site that Google was like, nah, mate, it's not good enough. On the flip side, though, you could apply the same thing again. Let's just say you had the best in-class content, right? Data-driven pieces on there. You had schema everywhere, FAQs, everything. But again, Google lands on the site, oh, your content's great, mate, but you've got 404s, redirect chains, internal links everywhere that aren't pointing right. It's not going to work, is it? And then the flip side again, you could get someone like me in, I can fix your page speed, I could make you the quickest site in the world, load, convert, easy. But if you've got no brand presence, no one's going to know who you are. And that's why this works. I think the house analogy works, and it shows it in my previous example. We did everything. Technical site foundations were sorted, content updated to a really good standard, and the PR was amazing. And that's what I think worked. Come on. There you go. So I think similar to what Sophie said as well, we have to start testing and learning and working together. We were siloed, I was siloed in my previous agencies, and I think having the SEOs, the content and the PR in my current business working together meant we could achieve those results. And right now we're on track to currently beat our KPIs for this financial year as well. So, with all that being said, it's long overdue. To every single PR person, whether I've worked with you or I haven't, I'm sorry, okay? I really am, I mean it. And it wasn't just, for fun as well. It was because for me, I had an ego issue, and having 2 kids and a wife does kind of take the ego out of you, I'm not gonna lie. But at the same time as well, you guys are amazing. I couldn't do the work you guys do. And I wish if I'd have done this and had this thought process or epiphany earlier in my career, I would be so much further ahead. So, context done, apology done. Now we're going to get on to the good stuff, I guess. So how do we learn from it? Because I don't want someone to go away, whether you're a PR person, a content person, or a tech person, leave this hall and still be siloed, and then come back in 10 years' time and go, I wish I listened to that lad from Bradford. Wish I did it. So, oh, there we go. We're going to stick with the house analogy, because I like it. And we're going to use the same people, the one team, which is a case of your strategists, your content strategist, and your digital PR strategist, okay? And you might get a brief from your director, your account manager, got this client coming on board, and they want to achieve organic traffic transactions by FY25, this much has to come through it, this how many links they've got to do, fine. I want you guys first to get yourself in a room and say, that's the objective they've set in us, we need an internal objective. And that objective shouldn't be related to numbers. It should be a case of, like Sophie mentioned, what do you want the brand to be known for? Right now, my objective is to hit a certain number of traffic and transactions this year, but I've spoken to my team. I want to be the go-to search engine in Europe for travel. That's my objective. You can't quantify it, you can't measure it, but that's what we're going to go where we're going to achieve. And one thing for the PR people in the room as well, and I wish people would do this more often, talk to your tech teams and talk to your content guys. As an example, like I mentioned in the previous slides as well, you might go away and do the best coverage, the best link building. Ask your people first really quickly, if we do all this work, is it going to amount to nothing? Do we have a technically sound site? All right, cool. Go away, let's have a look into it. Vice versa, go to the content guys. We're going to portray the brand this way off-site. And if they land on the site, is that going to mirror it? And if it's not, we need to fix it now. Whether it's get a brand guidelines or a tone of voice or something in there just to make sure the brand is synonymous with the offline and the online activity. Another thing, again, this is kind of mad that Sophie touched on it as well, but the right metrics. When I first joined Cadvu, we were still looking at traffic and transactions and revenue. That was it. And since then now, we're looking at visibility share, non-brand clicks, non-brand impressions, brand impressions, brand impressions. Everything is getting tracked now because we need to see SEO isn't just traffic and transactions. There's so much more to it. Make sure you've got the right metrics in place as well. So let's really quickly devise a strategy as well. Because I can't send you away with just a sob story about how I've learned my lesson now. I've got to send you away with some actual knowledge as well. So the one thing that I've done recently, this would only be shared with my internal team. I would never show a digital PR person a SERP because for me back in the day it was a case of, well, they're not going to get anything out of it. I'm actually wrong, and I'll tell you why. Let's for example, we use phone insurance. This was one of my clients back in the day when I was agency side. Phone insurance, that's our hero term. 22,000 searches on the table right now. And from that SERP, straight away, we can get a hold of, we've got authoritative household brands, people also ask, FAQ schema, and niche-specific sites. Right there and then, you've got something for every one of your team. You can give your PR person, here are the niche sites, here are the household brands. Can we find out what they're doing from an off-site perspective? People also ask, FAQ schema, that's for your content guys. Can you go away? Can you put FAQs on the site? Can we mark them up? Is there content that they're putting on there that we're not? And even outside of that, you've got 2 paid listings there. Get your paid people involved. Do we have the budget for it? Right there, showing them one screenshot gets the conversation rolling so much quicker. And the one thing that I've started doing as well, which is I've started to basket my direct competitors and my indirect competitors. So people that are doing the same thing as me, same offering, versus those aren't. And from there, when we're looking at direct, I love doing this now. I would hate jumping into Ahrefs back in the day. Now I love it because I can go through, look at my site, my referring domains, over 50, over 70, and do the same thing again. And straight away, I can see right now, we've got people in this market that are doing some really good link building. So we need to mirror that. Don't worry about these guys who are doing like 13,000, 33,000 because it's not doing anything. So for me, I like doing this as well. I like looking at their data and feeding this into the PR people and saying, I've noticed this. Can we look at these guys? They're the benchmark for me. And then from a content perspective, same thing. I'm sticking with the same competitors. I'm going through and I'm looking at, here's my domain, here's my key content, here's everyone else's. What can we add that just gets us to a benchmark? Just a benchmark for now. Because the plan is, and I heard this from a client one day, you can't just copy what they're doing. And you're right, you can't. For me, copying them is basically, I'm just being like them. That's the benchmark. I like doing this and then saying, well, how do we actually make that better? And the one thing that I've started doing is I go to my customer service team now and I ask them, what are clients or customers complaining about? And I will go away and figure out how do we apply that to our strategy, because that's not something you can see on your competitor's site. Just a little nugget there. And the final thing to round all that off is, essentially, SEO is like a loop, right? You're going to keep doing your technical checks, content checks, your digital PR, and that's going to keep finding opportunities, right? This isn't just a one and done thing. Let's keep recycling that cycle, basically. But, am I on for time? Yeah? Cool. Really quickly as well, I just want to touch on kind of levers, because we've got to a point now where I've been there for 2 years, and we're having the same kind of conversations over and over again. And we got to a point where it's like, actually, so when do we know what to accelerate and what to kind of push back on? And I kind of figured it out, right, which is a case of, for us, we've got to start flexing our budget a bit. When I was agency side, I don't know if it's the same now, you were kind of stuck in terms of you've got X amount for PR, X amount of tech, X amount for content, And I realized that's actually not the right way to do it. We should be flexing. So some ideas I brought here as well, because you might be the same way. You might have gotten to a point where you've kind of reached a bit of a plateau for your traffic. So here are some of the things that we're doing now for this year based on the plateau we're at. From a content perspective, we've started to invest in content clusters, in knowledge hubs now, to really grow our expertise in that area. We're refreshing FAQs as well. And then from a PR perspective, we're looking at, do we become more niche now? Like I mentioned, we touched on Manchester last year. We're smashing it now in Manchester. Do we look at Sheffield next? Do we look at London? Do we look at Birmingham next? Do we do it more regional? Do we look at the whole of the UK now? Or do we look at quietening down during certain periods and then ramping up spend during basically season periods? And then from a tech perspective, and I think tech people probably will correlate this a bit better, but I've put off doing missing alt tags for 2 years now because it's such low-hanging fruit. It doesn't really amount to much, but right now it gets to a point where you're like, right, got to get around to doing it now. So that's some of the things we're looking at currently. And the final thing, just on this slide really quickly, which doesn't fall under anyone's remit here, I don't think, but it might be time to start pulling on another lever as well. So a while ago, when I was doing SEO agency side, I never talked to my social media team because they weren't part of the retainer, as it were. But as you think about it now, you get into a point where Google is starting to put more into social signaling. You're seeing Reddit, for some reason, climbing up the rankings all of a sudden. So right now, I'm getting in touch with my social guys and saying, is this something we can look into? And something that's outside of my toolkit altogether. But I logged into TikTok and never been on it before. And I was like, is there a market here for airport vlogs and airport parking? And there was. But if I didn't look into this myself, no one would have looked into it for me. So for me, I think the biggest thing for me, you might be a PR person or a tech person or a content person. fine. But just look at new ways you can grow your brand. I think we've talked about it today in Sophie's talk as well. Don't look at traffic transactions. What's going to get your brand in front of more people? And this is an example of one of them. And that's it really, guys. I think, I've given you some framework, some context. We've done the apology. If I can give you one thing to take away off, and I'm hoping you've all made a note of this one thing, it's just throw your ego in the bin. It's not worth it. That's the one thing I said from day one. I mentioned it before as well. If I'd have done this a few years ago, I think I'd be far further ahead in my career right now. I'd have enjoyed myself more as well. I'm happy to say I love SEO now. I love digital now. I'm a big nerd for digital PR right now as well. And that's it. So I hope you took something away from this. Thank you for listening.